All right, let's try this again. As we're catching up with the Apostle Paul, who's giving the Corinthian Christians a history lesson. He said, remember the children of Israel, remember our fathers as they came out of Egypt. And as they witnessed the awesome power of the living God, rescuing them, redeeming them from slavery, bringing them out, birthing them as a nation through the water, immersing them into Moses in the cloud and in the sea, giving them food, giving them the law, giving them water. And they all participated in those, every single one of them. And yet he's holding them up and saying, listen, look what they did, and do not make the same mistakes. They did 4 things. He says, do not be idol worshippers. Do not be idolaters, as some of them were. As it is written, the people sat down to eat and drink and stood up to play. Nor let us act immorally, as some of them did. And 23,000 fell in one day. Nor let us try the Lord, as some of them did, and were destroyed by the serpents. Nor grumble, as some of them did, and were destroyed by the destroyer. These 4 categories of rebellion are held up by the Apostle Paul to the church in Corinth, and he's saying, as God's people today, let's learn the lesson from God's people back then, and not repeat the devastating, catastrophic mistakes that those Israelites made. So as we walk with Christ today, we're going to encounter difficulties. Some of the difficulties that the Israelites encountered were created by God specifically to prove to them that they could trust him. Some of those difficulties came from the outside, enemies that did not want them participating in their geographical area. We don't even want you around. One of these references is to the worshipers of Baal Peor, and the children of Israel engaged in spiritual adultery. This immorality was physical, for sure, but certainly also spiritual, where they abandoned their fidelity to the one who saved them. They abandoned their faithfulness to the one who loved them, and they went off and worshiped other gods and goddesses of the pagan idol worshipers around them. And so they were idolaters. They acted immorally. They tested God, and they complained and rebelled against Moses, saying, you're the reason all these people died. And then they grumbled. And God did not tolerate any of those things. So today, we need to recognize that we also have a tendency toward these 4 things, toward idolatry, toward immorality, physical and spiritual, toward testing God, and toward grumbling against God. So be aware of that tendency in the human heart. Israel displayed it perfectly for us to see their example and squelch those tendencies. Get a hold of them and root them out of your heart, root them out of your mind. Rather than worshiping idols, let's worship Christ Jesus alone. Rather than acting immorally, let us be faithful in our heart. Let's love the Lord our God with all of our heart, all of our soul, all of our mind, and all of our strength, and be faithful to him and love what he loves. Let's not test him. Don't test the Lord your God. Take him at his word, and don't grumble. Do everything without grumbling and disputing, without arguing, because we know that God is in control, and his promise in chapter 8 of the book of Romans is that he works everything out to the good, to those who love him and are called according to his purpose. We love him.